Hello guys, Johnny here, and in this video we're going to be talking mostly about, we're going to talk about Season 3, Episode 19 that aired yesterday. We're going to talk about some stuff that happened during that episode that were really cool and really interesting as far as theories are concerned. Just one little thing I do want to tell you guys, this video will mostly be about, some of the characters who me, myself, and others have suspected to be Savitar have now officially been debunked thanks to last night's episode. So we will be talking about that, and I will give you the reason that they are debunked. So I'm not just going to flat out say that they are debunked. So let's go ahead and get started with the first set of people that are no longer suspects to being Savitar anymore. Alright, so the first person that's been debunked is actually my number one theory to who I believed and was actually about almost 100% sure would be Savitar. And after last night's episode, that theory has been officially debunked by the show. I was talking to a friend, he was telling me, well, there's still a possibility, and he's right. There could be like a 5% chance that I am correct still, but I doubt it. I am almost 95% sure that it cannot be Julian anymore, because we see him in the future in 2024 still as Julian, and Savitar is long trapped in the Speed Force by then, so it cannot be him. And in my theory, I said that Savitar would need to turn Julian into a speedster, give him back his speed, and technically create himself. So that theory has now been debunked. It is officially wrong. The second theory that I had, which was my number 2 top theory, is the theory that Season 2's Time Remnant would eventually become Savitar and then, come back and kill Iris and everyone else in order to turn this current Barry into Savitar to secure his future as Savitar. Now, that theory, I didn't post it because I was watching the last night's episode and I was finishing the last little things of the editing process, and I realized that midway through the episode I was like, yep, this theory's not going to work either. And there's a real simple explanation as to why I don't think that it's a possibility anymore, and that is that you can you can see that Barry doesn't, the future Barry, the Barry from 2024, I don't know. I feel like, well, first of all, he doesn't even know who Savitar is at that time. So they never find out who Savitar is, which is crazy to me. I think that that's just ridiculous. I was really expecting it to be revealed yesterday, but it wasn't. So I think that that's just crazy. But anyways, I don't see it happening because yesterday it came to my attention that a lot of the things that Savitar says are from the future. He didn't get trapped by Future Barry until the future, and this Time Remnant never lived the future. He died in Season 2, so there's no way that he would know the events that happened in the future. So officially, that due to the fact that logic is involved in that, it just wouldn't make sense for Season 2's Time Remnant to be Savitar. So that's official, at least from my perspective. That theory has been officially debunked. The next theory I debunked this theory a while ago. I posted the video about 2 days ago. Eddie Thawne. It's now officially impossible for it to be Eddie Thawne. And I'm saying that based off of the fact that when Savitar did reveal his identity to Killer Frost, and if you haven't watched that episode, he did in fact reveal his identity, but not to the viewers. He only revealed it to Killer Frost. So it can't be Eddie because first of all, Caitlin wasn't close to Eddie. She didn't really know Eddie. I mean, they interacted a few times in the show in Season 1, but it wasn't like the face that Caitlin makes when she sees who Savitar really is. It wouldn't match with it being Eddie, just because she immediately trusts him. Immediately after she sees who it is, she's like, what do you need me to do? And that can't be Eddie because, I mean, regardless of whether she knew him in Season 1 for most of it just wouldn't make sense. She didn't know him like that. She didn't trust him like that. He wasn't even a part of Team Flash, really. He was just kind of helping them towards the later half of the season. So I don't think it's Eddie Thawne. And if you want more reasons to why it can't be Eddie Thawne, go ahead and go check out my video on why I debunked that theory. The next person who it definitely can't be, and I know that everybody, like 80% of the world right now, is thinking that it is this person because of Killer Frost's reaction, is Ronnie Raymond. Now, I understand a lot of people thinking that it's Ronnie Raymond because, I mean, let's be honest, it's a possibility. It really is, considering how fast she just trusted this person, whoever it is. I just don't see it happening. There's a few things that Ronnie says, or sorry, not Ronnie, that Savitar says when he reveals himself or before he reveals himself that don't add up to it being Ronnie. The first thing he says is he calls Caitlyn my child. Okay, Caitlyn is supposed to be his wife. He might be deceased or supposed to be deceased, but he would never call her my child. Okay, that's his wife. Regardless of how crazy he went in the Speed Force, it just can't be him because he would never. I mean, I would never call my wife my child, no matter how crazy I am. That's weird. So that's one reason. The second reason is when when he shows her the identity or his identity, she looks shocked. And now I know that would make sense with it being Ronnie because, oh, I thought you were dead, but you're not. So, that would obviously create a shock, but it's more of a surprised shock. It's like she knows this person and trusts this person or, knows this person very well, but it's all a shock to her, So I don't know. It's weird. I don't think that it is Ronnie. You can make the argument that it is. If you guys have any thoughts, please let me know in the comment section. I'd love to hear them, and we can have a little conversation about it. I just don't think that it's Ronnie. Just because another thing, he tells Caitlyn or Killer Frost that he doesn't want Caitlyn to return. He wants to get rid of the Caitlyn part of Killer Frost, which to me is surprising because no matter how crazy Ronnie went in the Speed Force, according to Savitar, if he is Savitar, no matter how crazy he would have gone in the Speed Force, he would never. I mean, come on. He married Caitlyn Snow. He fell in love with Caitlyn Snow, not Killer Frost. He never even met Killer Frost. He didn't know about Killer Frost's alter ego because all of this stuff with Killer Frost didn't happen until season 2. So I just don't see it happening. If the writers and the producers do decide to go in that direction, I would really hope that they execute it to perfection because there would be a lot of questions that fans, including myself, would have, and I would expect them to have really good answers. So I don't think it's Ronnie Raymond, however plausible it is, knowing that she trusted him almost immediately. I don't think that it is Ronnie Raymond. The next person that it definitely cannot be, and I heard this theory a few days ago. One of my friends made this connection. He said, oh, well, have you ever noticed how Savitar is always telling Barry that he won, that he wins, that he's going to defeat him, he's going to beat him? It kind of reminded me, or my friend saying this, he said it kind of reminded him of, every time Eobard Thawne, the Reverse Flash, was talking to Flash. He would always tell him, I win, Flash, or he's like, you lose, Flash. So it's always about winning with the Reverse Flash, which it's a good connection. It really is, because Savitar says this about 4 or 5 times in total. And that's quite a few times. Even when he kills Iris, when Barry sees this in the future, when he kills Iris, he says, you lose, Flash. And then he says, I'm finally free of you. So, that could be a possibility. I mean, Eobard Thawne has hated Barry, the Flash, for a while, for a long time. So it's possible. I just don't think that they would go in this route. And if you watched Legends of Tomorrow Season 2, you would understand why I'm saying that I don't think that it is him. Because the time remnant of the Reverse Flash that was running around in Legends of Tomorrow has now been erased from existence, along with his with his current self. So his current self was erased from existence way back in Season 1. Even though Barry changed the timeline, the only version of Thawne that remained was a time remnant, a past time remnant, since Barry pulled him out of the timeline in the year 2000 when he went back and created Flashpoint. But the Black Flash has officially killed or destroyed that time remnant, so he no longer exists. So as far as we know, there is no version of Thawne, whether current or time remnant, that exists. They have all been erased from existence and sent to the Speed Force. So I don't think that it is Eobard Thawne. I honestly hope that it's not Eobard Thawne. I'm hoping that the next time we see Eobard Thawne or the Reverse Flash would be when they do his origin story. When they show us, how he became so obsessed with the Flash and how he recreated the explosion or the accident that gave Barry his powers, and how he traveled through time and then found out that him and the Flash would become enemies and then started hating him and all that. That's the next time that we see the Reverse Flash. That's what I would love to see. That would be a great story arc for the show, and I think it would do the Reverse Flash justice. It would do justice to him because every time we've seen him, he's never been in his timeline. He's been in Barry's timeline. So, I would like to see him from the beginning when he became the Reverse Flash and all that stuff. So I honestly don't think that it is the Reverse Flash. The next suspect is that it was H.R. Wells, and a lot of people have made this argument because if you watch Season 3, Episode 19, you see that H.R. Wells is doing really well for himself. I mean, he owns Jitters now, and it's called H.R. Jitters now. And he has, he's an author apparently now. He's writing stories about every time Barry fought a villain, and, he's changing the names and stuff, but it's basically just little stories from what's happened in the show. And apparently he's a ladies' man. He's over there pulling girls left and right. So that's pretty cool. I mean, I can see the argument. People are saying, oh, well, he's doing the best. Everybody else in the future's all screwed up, mentally and physically and just in general. And he's the one that's doing really well for himself. And I can see the argument. And I kind of at first did, well, I was like, whoa, why is he, so successful and everybody else is in the dump? So I can see the argument. I don't think so. I think the producers wouldn't go that route. And I've made this argument about HR even from the beginning. Look, in season 1, HR Wells, even if it wasn't his original self, Wells was the villain. For most of it, we saw his face as Eobard Thawne. Regardless of whether it was Wells or not, it was Thawne pretending to be Wells. And I would honestly it would just make me so upset if they went and made another villain be Tom Cavanaugh, the actor who plays Wells. It would just bother me because I actually like this version of Wells. HR to me he's like the assistant to Cisco in the comedy relief. And for most of this season, Cisco has been kind of in the dumps because of his brother dying. So I feel like Tom Cavanaugh's portrayal of HR Wells is super good because it kind of gives the show a little bit of a comedic relief. So I like that. So I don't think that they would go that route again. It would make a lot of fans angry, and I know that for a fact because I know a lot of people that would not like it to be another Wells. It would just be lazy writing, It would just be sloppy writing. So I don't see that happening. The next candidate that's been officially debunked is Wally West. I don't mean to laugh at it, but I think that it was really funny that he went and tried to take on Savitar by himself in the future. And, when they explained it, they made it clear that Barry wasn't around anymore and that he was pissed off and that he was going on a rage run. So that's why he did what he did. But I think it's really stupid of Wally. I mean, come on, dude. Savitar trapped you in the Speed Force. Barry did everything in his power to get you out. And you're gonna go and your sister unfortunately died, and you're gonna go and face Savitar on your own at his strength. And now he's actually a person. He's not just he's not in the Speed Force anymore. The outcome of that I thought would be that he would kill Wally, but I think that Savitar was just like, you know what, that's probably a fate worse than death. So that kind of makes sense to one of the prophecies that he gave about, the team. He said, one of you will suffer a fate worse than death. That's actually a pretty bad fate. I mean, being paralyzed for the rest of your life. I mean, and my question was really, because if you remember correctly in season 2, Zoom shattered Barry's spine too, and he couldn't move. He couldn't walk. But he healed because of the Speed Force inside of him. So what my question is really, in the future, when Wally did do that and go fight Savitar by himself, when Savitar shattered his spine, shouldn't he have healed by now? I mean, that was 7 years when that happened? So I don't know. That was really kind of weird to see him still in the wheelchair. and still paralyzed. So I guess we'll get an explanation. Maybe we won't, but that was just kind of weird to see him still in the wheelchair after like 7 or 8 years that Savitar broke his spine. So, or maybe Savitar stole his speed as well. I guess we'll never know. So yeah, Wally West definitely cannot be Savitar because Savitar messed him up pretty bad. Uh, I actually towards the beginning of season 3, I heard a lot of people talking about Cisco becoming Savitar due to the fact that Barry created Flashpoint, killed his brother, he went crazy, stuff like that. I disagree with that theory, and I feel like this episode really debunked that theory because we see Cisco, and he, man, in the future, man, no arms, no vibe powers. It's crazy, and it's kind of sad to be honest because he's so happy. He looks like he's in the dumps, but he's so excited when he sees Barry from the past, and I don't know, it just kind of hit me in the heart when I saw that. I don't think that Cisco could be Savitar. It just doesn't make sense to me, and I think that this episode 19 kind of just debunked that theory, seeing as how he was in the future, and supposedly Savitar was already trapped in the Speed Force, so he cannot be Cisco. The next person is, well, this is pretty obvious, but it can't be Killer Frost, obviously, so we're just going to go ahead, because I heard a few people say that it could be Killer Frost, or a version of Killer Frost, and I don't think that it is Killer Frost, or any version of Killer Frost, because when Savitar steps out of the suit, we know it's a man. We know it's a man based on the posture, the hair. You can see kind of the back of the hair, and you can see a leg, and it looks like a man leg. If they do make it a woman, it would be a really built woman with really short hair, and that would be, I don't know, it would be a little weird. If they did that, that's cool, but as far as, perspective is concerned from that scene at the end of season 3, episode 19, it has to be a man. At least that's the main conclusion that I have, that it has to be a man. The next person that I don't think is Savitar is Jesse Wells from Earth 2. Now, the reason, or Jessie Quick, if that's the name you want to call her, the reason I don't think that it could be her is because, first of all, they don't mention her at all in season 3, episode 19, and I know that it focuses mostly on the future, but she was a part of Team Flash, even if it was briefly for a few episodes, before she went back to Earth 2 and then eventually ended up going to Earth 3 after episode 16. She is technically a little integral part of Team Flash, so they would have mentioned her or what happened to her in the future. And another thing is when we go, when Cisco's talking about Wally and about what happened to him, and they don't mention Jesse at all, and they're supposed to be boyfriend and girlfriend. So, that just brings me to believe that, either she just ended up going back to Earth 2 and staying there, or maybe since they never defeated Savitar until like the year 2021, 2020, that means that they never got Jay out of the Speed Force, and therefore Jesse had to stay in Earth 3. So I don't know, there's a little bit of a confusion there. I hope that they clear it up, but then again, if you think about it, the future that Barry ended up going to is just one possible future. Things don't have to end that way or be that way in the future. They can be changed since he is from the past. So we don't know. But as far as, reason for it being Jesse, I don't think that it is. She wouldn't have a motive at all. Most of the things that Savitar says when they talk to him through Julian don't add up to Jesse. They don't even point. Jesse's not even in the conversation, at least from my perspective. So yeah, I don't think it's Jesse. If there's something that I missed, about maybe a connection between Savitar and Jesse, maybe that I missed in this video, please let me know in the comment section, and I'll make sure I get to you and we can talk about it. But as far as, my knowledge of, the connection between Savitar and any character, I don't think that the character would be Jesse. As well as like what I said earlier, when the person gets out of the suit, it does look like a man. I'm not trying to be sexist or anything. I'm just saying physically it does look like a man. So I doubt that it's Jesse. The last person whom I really don't, well, personally I don't want it to be Savitar, but I don't think will be Savitar, is Jay Garrick. And now the reason that I left him for last is because out of everybody who it could possibly be, I think that if they were to make somebody Savitar, it would have to be him. Now, I don't think that it is him, but if they did pick him, it would make it would make a little bit of sense, because there's a lot of things that Savitar says and that Jay says and does that do connect. For example, the part where they're trying to figure out what to do with the stone. Jay is the one that suggests that they throw the stone into the Speed Force, and that, to me, that has always been super like weird, that he said that. It might just be him as a speedster, thinking that it'll just stay in the Speed Force because they don't know anything about it, but there's always been a little doubt in my mind. Second reason that I think it could possibly be him is because he does end up staying in the Speed Force at the end of episode 16. But the same thing, with that same reason that it could be him because of that, it could also, one could also say that it can't be him because he chose to stay in the Speed Force. Nobody forced him. Nobody trapped him. He chose to stay there. So that's another reason that, he could be, and then at the same time couldn't be Savitar. I honestly don't think that it is Savitar. The person that gets out of the suit clearly is somebody that, Caitlyn would trust or would, recognize. And, I mean, she would recognize Jay, but she doesn't know Jay. The Jay that she thought she knew was actually Hunter Zolomon. So they just met Jay at the end of season 2, and even then, after that, he ended up going back to Earth 3 at the end of season 2. So we didn't even see him in this season up until about episode 9. No, well, at the beginning of the season, episode 2, but then again in episode 9, and then briefly in other parts of the season. So I don't think that it is Jay. He doesn't know enough about Team Flash to say the things that Savitar's saying about Team Flash. So I'm just going to go ahead and personally say, from my perspective, I think that theory is debunked. I don't think that Jay Garrick could become or is Savitar. Just personally, if you think that I missed something that could, suggest that he is Savitar, again, let me know in the comment section and we can talk about it. And that's pretty much everybody that could be a reasonable suspect to being Savitar. I did hear a theory like 2 weeks ago about Joe West being Savitar. But let's be honest, if you watched episode 19 yesterday, you would know that any thoughts or any connections you could make between Joe West and Savitar, just completely forget about them. There's no way. Joe would never kill his daughter, and and that's made very clear in yesterday's episode 19. So there's no way that Joe West is Savitar, so I'm not even going to bother talking about it. And yeah, that's it. That's everybody who could possibly be Savitar. Like I said during the video, maybe I missed someone. Maybe I didn't. As far as my list goes, though, that is all the suspects that I think could have at one point been Savitar. But after yesterday's episode have now been debunked officially. If I missed any details on a certain suspect that I named in this video, or if I missed a whole suspect entirely, please let me know in the comments section. And yeah, that's going to do it for this video, guys. Again, if you like what you see and you want to see some more videos like this, just give me a like and a subscription, and I'll get out some more videos for you guys. Till next time.